KLTV sound check. KLTV sound check.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the VOCC. If you want to join me, we'll rise and do the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I guess the minutes review is from 2 weeks ago. There was no activity last week, right?
Well, that's rather crude saying there was no activity last week. We don't have any reportable activity.
Okay.
Yes, I did read the minutes and move to approve those minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve minutes. Questions, corrections? See none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I'll run down through the consent agenda. We have two call for public hearings. The first one will be September 24th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. It's to consider a rezone request and comprehensive plan amendment brought by Bo Stordahl for 9 properties comprising 108 acres. And then we also have a public hearing set for October 15th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. for 2024 budget amendment. We do those basically quarterly, I think is how we're on schedule there. We have a call for bids for high density polyethylene pipe scheduled for October 2nd, 2024 at 1:30. The bid is out. We use this pipe up at the landfill. Agreements, contracts, bid awards. We have a professional service contract with Reliable Administration Solutions for the continual need for technical support for Spillman software. Spillman software is what our law enforcement uses. I looked through this contract. What it basically is, we have a contract that runs through 2025, but the company has been sold to a different entity. So it's a reflection of that sale. The amount hasn't changed. It's $66,000 a year. Corrections pays 25% of it. Law enforcement records pays 75% of it. So there's really no changes to the contract. It's just reflecting a sale. Number 5 and 6 is we had out for bid our food services contract for Cowlitz County Jail, and the Juvenile Detention Center was up for bid. And that was awarded to Trinity Services Group. It's a 1-year contract with 4 yearly extensions. So really they'll be in place for 5 years. The initial cost for meal for the county jail is $1.96 roughly. And for juvenile, $2. Item 7, completion letter to Capital Heating and Cooling for the Annex HVAC replacement project. The total cost of that project was $298,696.84, and that included Washington State sales tax. We have a resolution to increase the existing Impress revolving checking account for industrial insurance fund to the amount of $60,000. Currently, it sits at $35,000. It's a fund where we keep funds in when we settle claims, like, I don't know, it could be workers' comp, different type claims. We've seen an increase in those claims, and so we're putting a little more money in that fund to make sure it's there when the insurance company needs to pay it out. 2 letters in correspondence, both it's from the United States Department of Interior on the Cowlitz Indian Tribe regarding an extension letter for fee to trust, and then one regarding a notice of non-gaming land acquisition application. So couple things the tribe is doing that we got copied letters on. And then we had vouchers. in the amount of $4,087,635.47. Questions, comments on the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the activity of the Cowlitz tribe is tied to parcels of land they own near Olikwa Road, Olikwa Creek. They own this land. They're adding it to their trust lands, which I'm assuming means they no longer have to pay taxes on it.
Gotcha.
And it preserves some of their traditional fishing sites. The other thing that I wanted to point out had to do with the contracts for meals, both of the jail meals and the juvenile detention meals are at a discount from the previous contractor. The agency that won the contract also already provides commissary services for the jail. So because they're already here, they can reduce the costs of delivering the meal services. So that was kind of a bargain. Although those annual increases will reflect built-in cost of living adjustments, which we don't know until the year occurs. So again, some cost savings on those things. Last, the call for hearing for the 108 acres is the old abandoned quarry off of Walker Road that the owner wants to develop into residential uses. So converting the quarry into residential uses and could be a nice little development up there. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I move approval of today's consent agenda as presented by staff.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Chance, questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yeah.
I'm a little in a friendly friendly quibbling mode. It's well, maybe I'm not. It's polyethylene.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other one is regarding the contract with the meals. We don't have any specific insight as to why the Trinity Group was able to underbid the, I did know the name, group anyhow.
Summit?
Summit, yeah. And so it was only conjecture on our part that it was sort of, they were viewing it as a package deal, even though I don't think it originated as a package deal.
Right.
I'm only quibbling.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll take a vote on the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also vote aye. Thank you. Motion items. Public Works. I need him to phonetically spell out those big words.
And even then.
Yeah,
sometimes-
even then I'll get it wrong.
You don't remember your organic chem class from high school?
No, I don't, Art.
So good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. Public Works has one item on the agenda today. Item number 10 is amendment number 2 with RH2 Engineering for the Toutle Water System Improvement Project. This is to provide design for the Shadow Mountain Road water system improvements. The increase is $35,000. This increase is coming as a request for additional work from staff. It's for the addition of a design for $100,000 gallon reservoir to replace 2 booster pump stations. The decision was made to go with the reservoir because it increases the fire safety in the area and the system reliability during power outages so that when the power is out, there's water in the reservoir, so they will still have water as it drains down.
So the Shadow Mountain project is something that has been congressionally funded. We have a grant from them to work on improving the water supply. And
Ye-
then this would also increase the capacity and public safety aspects because it's on a hill overlooking Tootle
Yes.
Tootle Lake High School and the community there.
Yes, this system will be fed off of the reservoir, the existing reservoir behind Tulu Lake High School. And it's partially funded with congressionally funding and ARPA funding and local dollars.
Okay.
RH2 Engineering, how did you pick them initially?
So we go through an RFQ process. That's a request for qualifications. Engineering firms, architects, and survey firms are purely selected on qualifications. So in 2022, I believe we went out for a request, fall of 2022, we did a request for qualifications. I do not recall off the top of my head how many submittals we received. Then those submittals are reviewed by a team within Public Works, generally 3, because it's always good to have an odd number. So we rank the proposals and pick our top selections. That we generally do an interview process of our top 3 submittals. And based on the submittals and the interview process, we select the firm that we consider has the best qualifications for that particular project. And then once that is done, we negotiate a scope and contract with that firm.
They're a pretty broad-based engineering firm, aren't they? They do a lot of things.
I believe they do. They do a lot of water projects in this area. They work with Beacon Hill Water Sewer District quite frequently, and I know they've worked with the city of Longview also.
Just adjusting my hearing aids, making sure I got every word.
Well, that's going to be tough today because my voice keeps fading in and out.
Mr. Chairman, like a motion? Sure. I move that we approve amendment number 2 with RH2 Engineering as has been so nicely presented by our county engineer.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve on item 10. Questions, comments, concerns, anything? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Facilities maintenance.
Good morning, Savannah Clement, Public Services. So today we have in front of you not only a bid award, but a contract execution for the annex roof replacement project. We went out to bid and received 4 bids back on this project. We would like to award today to the lowest bidder, which is actually a Weather Guard, a local company, which we always like to see as a lower bid to get an award. We did also have another local company, Pac Tech, who also bid on the project. This has been on our replacement plan, our 5 years facilities plan for a couple of years. We're hoping to get the work completed by the end of October, which is why we're trying to get not only the bid awarded, but executed as well today, just for timeliness. The contract total, that's probably important, is $191,235.
I know a question we get quite often on the roofs. What's the warranty and stuff on these? Because I know we get that question at times.
I do have a facilities project coordinator here, Jason. This isn't Jason's project. Our other coordinator's on vacation. Do you happen to know what the warranty that they potentially provided? Yeah, I don't know either. I could look at our contracts.
I know we got that question on HHS, and I'm trying to remember what they.
The TPO product itself has a warranty on the material. I would have to check though on the I don't want to, someone said yesterday, I don't want to assume,
Yeah.
to guess. So I can find that out, but it would not be right now.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
have that
fine.
information now.
Fine, I just see if you had it off the top of your head.
I think you'll recall that we do have plans for a major change in tenants in the annex. We're bringing over a county office of public defenders
Mhm.
that'll be housed over there. So
Mhm.
time is a little bit of the essence to kind of combine those two different steps. And I think that's the appropriate way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any trouble with the project. I was, just know that question has arisen.
Mhm.
But if you'll make sure you report back to us on that warranty issue.
Yep.
I would make a motion that we award the contract for the removal and replacement of the annex roof and the installation of a new TPO membrane roof system to WeatherGuard Incorporated and authorize staff to execute said contract.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve.
Question?
Yes.
Is this a preventive measure, or we already have roof damage?
I would say a little bit of both. It was already on our schedule, but there are a few active leaks at the annex currently. So we had planned to do it and then finding recently that there are some active leaks occurring.
Is there any indication that potentially they'll find some ugliness and this will be a higher cost?
There's always a chance, especially on an older building like we have a lot of here. However, with the bid walks and the inspections that our crew has done, we haven't found anything other than the active leaks that we've located.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, I'm seeing none, so we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Health and Human Services.
Good morning, Gina James, Health and Human Services. We have two items on the agenda this morning. The first is a contract amendment with the Washington State Department of Commerce. This is an amendment to our Consolidated Homeless Grant. It's a 2-year contract. So we're in the middle of this, just started the second year of this contract. They've had an amendment to correct a miscalculation with the HIN funding budget from the original contract. So there's some funds in this amendment going towards the HIN program. There's some other funding in this amendment. Sorry, I'm going to backtrack a second. The HIN funds then we're passing down to Lower Columbia CAP, which is the second item we have on the agenda, is passing those funds down to CAP. The remaining funds that are in this amendment are, at this point, we're not allocating out, and we're looking at utilizing for some of our current contracts that we have with coordinated entry and other document recording fee contracts. This contract also pays for a lot of our time doing coordinated entry and administering the contract, doing point in time count, that kind of thing.
Some of it was a miscalculation, but I think yesterday the legislature also did an additional,
Yes.
whatever you want to call to the counties.
Yes, they approved some additional funding, and they've included that in this amendment as well. And that's the funding we're looking at utilizing for some of our current contracts, like coordinated entry and programs.
These kind of funds are all, and I always mention this because people look at the gross number, but these are our reimbursement funds. If we have enough to reimburse up to 8 million, we get 8 million, but if we don't, we don't.
Right. And we've historically not spent out these contracts.
So in this case, the state automatically offered us 1.306.
Yes.
Well, probably about, I would, just doing the math, if 500,000 is HIN, probably that was probably the miscalculation. I'm just assuming.
Yeah,
And
part of
Yeah.
Yeah, part of it was the HIN miscalculation. The remainder, I think it was was it 800 and some thousand that was approved in the legislature.
By, that's an amended calculation because the data input was amended. We've had different statistics for the hen at the beginning, which I assume was the end of last year.
For hen, yeah, there was a miscalculation when they did that allocation.
But miscalculation, I'm trying to find out what was miscalculated.
I believe it,
Was the data that we supplied them in error? Or are we
No.
updating that data and now they're seeing that they're behind and they need?
it was more so just a typo, administrative
Oh.
error, not on our part at the state level. Yeah,
I think one of the other real live challenges is the state makes the HEN awards available based on the determination of disabilities for workers. They're not able to work, but that investigation does take some time. And so they do have, this is not that uncommon that they make periodic adjustments as they complete their investigations and realize there are more people eligible. Some people go off and they get employment and housing and all that stuff. So you use the acronym HEN, which conjures up fried chicken in my mind, but I know it means something other than just that. Can you just share a little bit of what HEN
Yes.
goes for these disabled folks?
Yes, so HIN stands for Housing and Essential Needs. It's a program that's set up by the state Department of Social and Health Services. And if you are unable to work for a period of 90 days or more, you may be eligible to receive HIN. What it provides is essential need items. So it can help with like laundry, detergent, shampoo, those types of household essential needs. As well as potentially help with housing. So during this time period that you're working with the state to determine your level of disability and sort of evaluating the reason you're unable to work and creating next steps with your case manager at the state, the HIN funding that we're passing through to CAP can help pay for your rent during that time.
So if a client has a pretty hefty bank account because they have been working and they've accumulated savings, that's part of the investigation. I mean, they have to meet pretty low
There's income
standards.
thresholds, yes. They do have to meet the income thresholds.
Yeah, the investigation is not conducted by us, it's by the state. So they tell you this person's eligible.
Correct.
You also mentioned something called coordinated entry. And again, the public might not be familiar with that terminology. We use that to do what?
So coordinated entry is a system that all communities have established. It's a referral system. So there's certain programs in the community, certain housing programs that are required to take referrals from coordinated entry. And so coordinated entry is a process where individuals connect with someone. We currently are working with Community House on Broadway, Emergency Support Shelter, and Family Health Center. So someone could connect with any one of those agencies if they're have lost their housing. They will talk to that individual about their housing situation, refer them to any mainstream services that might be beneficial in the community. Sometimes individuals are also looking for food assistance or other mental health or other things, so they'll try to connect them that way. They, in the process of asking some questions about their housing situation, they will input some of that information into the homeless management information system. Then when there's programs that have an opening for housing at HHS, we take a look at the information and identify who's eligible for that referral, and we'll do a referral for that individual.
And then the last thing that you mentioned that this contract helps to provide is funding point in time counts. Again, describe that particular program.
So the point in time is state and required by the state from the federal government to, it's an attempt to count the individuals in your community who are currently unsheltered. There's also a sheltered count, but that happens through the database system. So the unsheltered count, we are responsible for doing. So it's looked different over the years. We've done big events where we've invited providers and invited individuals currently homeless to come in and connect with resources, and we count them that way. The last few years, we've gone out and worked with different outreach providers in town to go out and connect with individuals currently living on the street to complete the point in time count surveys. The state uses that information. They have to provide that up to the federal level. They use that in their applications for funding. We don't necessarily use it. We don't use it that way locally, and it doesn't affect, it's not connected to the funding that we receive from the state.
So prior to this money being made available, that we normally, we've had coordinated entry for a number of years. That used to come out of document recording fees, and our hope is to make more of those locally generated funds, document recording fees, available for the programs we have been helping, which is the Housing Authority and Campus Towers and a number of different programs. I think the latest one was Habitat for Humanity. We'll have more funds to help local agencies addressing affordable housing issues.
Yes.
So it's
yes.
a good
We've been-
adjustment in.
Yeah, we've been looking at
funding.
shifting the funding over to this contract so we can free up some of our local funds.
Yeah.
Right.
Just taking a look ahead, is number 13 hen orientated?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll stay back on 12 then. So yesterday when we talked, we asked for some statistics, and you haven't had enough time to do that. I would encourage that those statistics will become an ongoing
Yeah.
part of the process.
I have really rough average. I know we've talked about the monthly average of rent.
Right.
I could get much better information after talking to Cap, but if we just look at our hen spending from last year and the number of people, it comes out to about 6,000 per person for the year. If we then divide that by 12, it ends up about 500 per person per month. And that number includes like the case manager time, Cap admin, it's sort of all inclusive, but that's very rough number. And like I said, I can get better information after talking to Cap.
And the admin fees are generally going to be 10% is probably high, but it
Yeah.
may it may go up to 15.
Yeah,
depending on who's
hen
doing the accounting.
specifically, I believe is 7. It's
Okay.
on the lower end.
Is that the composite, your fee plus Cap's fee?
No, that was, yes, it was. Sorry, I had to think about what date I was looking at. Yes.
Okay. So I had argued before that one of the problems with rent subsidies is that it gives the landlord no incentive at all to lower the price. In fact, historically, any time rent subsidies occur, bad things happen. And so it's difficult for me. On the one hand, I know from a principled level, this is not the right thing to do. But then somebody comes up and says, I can't work for 90 days and you want me to go out in the street? And then the answer is no, I don't want you to go out on the street. And because we have that system already in there, people count on this. And there's a long history there. I'm just trying to let people know I'm going to have a hard time with this. But on average, how many, the 6,000 computation, how many people were in the denominator?
About 250.
About 250?
Mhm.
Okay. And That was, of those, do you have a sense for how long they've been on the program?
I can tell you on average, the length of time in the program is about 1 to 2 years.
And you know, the reason that it's that long, is because,
Is because I know for some individuals, as they're looking and doing those evaluations with the state about their disability and why they're not able to work, sometimes it is a long-term disability, and that takes quite a bit of time to get connected to those resources. At the point that that happens, they then transition off of HIN to the long-term disability supports. But it is a very lengthy process.
so, there's so many answering questions. Mr. Chairman, you stop me anytime you feel I've used up too much time. Um, If, if I'm a person with a job at a mill and all of a sudden the mill shuts down and because of the inflation and all other things, I'm going paycheck to paycheck. Okay, now I have no paycheck.
Mhm.
Do I talk to you about HEN, or is there another program that'll help me stay in my home for a bit to see if I can recover?
It, if you are out of work, for HIN, it would have to be due to a disability.
Okay,
So it probably wouldn't be HIN. Other programs that might be able to help are limited, in that sense.
okay.
Yeah.
And
Of course, the state has this huge Department of Employment Security that provides unemployment comp for that bridge, so.
yeah, but and that's a good thing as a bridge, but then they have to compete against some other subsidized housing. And so, like I said, the landlord doesn't have incentive to drop
Yeah.
the rents.
Yeah. Hopefully you would be going out and looking for another job.
So when I see someone in the street that is a visible physical handicap, like anyhow, in a wheelchair and they're old enough that you know that they're beyond retirement age, they wouldn't have been, they might have been on HEN a long time ago, but now they're probably on some other program.
Probably on a longer term support if they're not able to work. It really depends on the situation.
If they needed that, they'd come to your offices and you would guide them.
I would suggest people start with the state. That's who does the initial eligibility for this particular program. So I would suggest they start there, and the state could also look at, the whole scope of services that they have that they may be able to connect someone to.
And then in terms of auditing, you audit CAP?
We do. Yeah, we're getting ready to go out actually later this month. So we'll be there on site.
That's someone trained in auditing, or?
It's our staff, and we do some training around auditing, what we're looking for, those types of things. So we'll be looking at all of that.
And what things do you look for there?
So we randomly select 3 months, and we look at all of the expenditure data and the backup documentation that supports those expenditures. And so we look to make sure that everything that they've invoiced us for, that they have the appropriate backup documentation that supports those expenses. So in this case, we are looking at the rent payments, adding them all up, making sure it adds up to all of those receipts, add up to what they billed us. So we do, as I mentioned, we randomly select 3 months and do that review. We also review the client files and look at the documentation in the client files and make sure that the rent amount that was paid is what is identified on their lease, that it matches up, that they have everything in the client file that they're supposed to according to the program guidelines.
Okay, so you're auditing the other paperwork. You don't necessarily go to the fundamental ground truth.
We don't,
You don't talk to a client and you don't talk to the landlord.
correct.
Okay. I think every now and then that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, we could certainly look at doing that.
Anyhow, that's my opinion.
I never mind the question because I believe I'm correct in this. We don't have to accept these contracts. We don't have to be the middleman. We choose to be the middleman just so we can educate the public and talk about these
Yeah.
things. But these things happen whether we're the middleman or not. And we don't have the authority to shut off any spigot at the state or do that type of stuff, no matter how much I may disagree with how they set up some of these programs. So I never mind the questions. I think that's one of the reasons we do this is so people can understand where their money's going.
During my first term in this office, we issued some contracts to a local agency for homelessness services called Love Overwhelming, and they operated the building, which is right behind the annex. And we got a pretty good lesson about homelessness programs and expenditures. You mentioned yesterday that the HEN portion or the essential needs, the personal hygiene portion was financed through gift cards to stores like Dollar Tree that don't sell alcohol or tobacco, which I think is good. As you do your kind of auditing of the process to make sure it's all done according to the program goals, have you had an opportunity to double check to see if those who get the little gift cards aren't then selling them on the side to get cash to make bad decisions and subvert? I don't know if you do that and it's a little bit extra, but I think that's useful. They ought to know that they're still being held accountable for making good choices and that we're not providing them an opportunity to evade the rules. Although I'm not so naive as to assume they can't figure something out. But I think if you're doing the auditing, I think that would be a useful tool.
Okay, yeah, yep. Like I said, we're getting ready to go out this month, so that I will put that on our radar.
Go ahead.
Just a little insight then on housing essentials, support services, and that availability. I've been speaking to some homeless people. One is been disabled from a construction accident for 7 years. He gets $400 a month while he's still waiting for his settlement, hoping to get to the $1,100 a month range at some time in the near future. And of course, some back pay. Plus he gets food stamps, okay? So he's living off of that. I have two others that they're already in the $1,100 a month range. So they're pretty much in their perspective doing quite well, plus food stamps, et cetera. And they have 3 storage units that they store all of their garage sales stuff in. That's where some of their surplus money goes, et cetera. So I'm just wondering, how do those services that are already in place for people and then others applying, how is it really assessed? What is the essential services that these individuals need? How do you know what their other forms of income are, and are they really essential needs that they need?
Yeah, so for this particular program, the state does the eligibility. And so they sit down with the individual and look at all of their income sources, what services they're connected to. It sounds like the situations that you're talking about, like they're already connected to the long-term disability supports.
Well connected.
Yeah. So they would probably not be eligible for this program because they're already connected to the long-term disability supports. But when they're first doing the assessment, they're looking at all the income sources, what resources they do have, and that is all factored into their determination of eligibility.
Ron, you bring up an excellent point. I think what you're getting at, that we have a welfare system that has built-in expenditures that we can't seem to control. So those assistance, those grant awards, that $1,100 a month, which is not a whole lot to live on, but you can manage if you're single.
Just an example. So the
The-
daughter and the mother live together, so they have $2,200 a month there plus their food stamps.
So it's
Now-
all based on them having low income,
Right.
maybe zero earned income. The grants that the government provides for support doesn't count. Doesn't count as their income, right? I mean, typically, the welfare programs are not counted against you as income because you haven't earned them. It's frustrating. You know, the system goes on and on and on. That's one of the areas that the welfare system is absolutely broken and provides no incentive for people to work off of that system. If you're caught in it, you actually get punished if you go to work because you lose all your benefits as soon as you earn a penny over the limit. So it's frustrating. It's virtually nothing we can do at the county level. These are all state and federal policies, and it is insane.
Correct. And so individuals like myself and many others that look at, well, how can I help? You ask a few questions and you say, in many instances, help is not really needed. It's just a discipline of how you're spending what you already have and a discipline of poor lifestyle to start with that is frustrating.
So one of the agencies that we're connected with is the Southwest Washington Workforce. And it's the government workforce training program. And the regional office is located in Vancouver. And several years ago, the executive director got funding from the federal government to do a program that was specifically designed to serve clients living in the Highlands and in South Kelso, to get them work training and working with employers with a ramp down of the benefits. As their income goes up, they don't get all of it taken away. It's ramped down. He had the most difficult time getting that ramping down concept across to the state bureaucrats. It was a federal program. The state bureaucrats said, no. If they earn a penny over the limit, they lose everything. And he went around. It took him a year to get it approved. And then COVID hit and we couldn't get anybody to join. And the time for the program has expired. But it's an example of this built-in disincentive of a welfare system that's horribly broken, very wasteful. And people get trapped and there's no incentive for them to get out. It's bizarre.
Good morning, commissioners. The consensus that I'm hearing from you guys is a good one with the concern with regards to the welfare programs. And I have spent hours with Gina talking about this very thing. And I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Dahl, with regards to the questions that Commissioner Mortensen is asking, because one of the things, correct me if I'm wrong, Gina, that I got from our conversation is, as much as we may not agree with these programs and how convoluted and crazy they are, if we are involved in that money passing through our county, we can at least mitigate some of the craziness and have some controls over the things that are taking place, as opposed to just allowing Olympia to come into our county and do what they're going to do. So I appreciate the conversation and you guys taking the time and energy to go through that. But I do think that it's important to understand that as much as we may disagree with those things, if we can keep some level of control within our county of what the state does, I think that's a positive thing.
Well, I could go on and ask a lot of questions, but at this point, maybe I should just make a motion to accept the contract amendment, item 12.
Okay,
I so move.
okay. We have a motion to approve the contract amendment, item 12. Any other questions, concerns? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next one, item 13 is kind of connected in the sense you're transferring some money out of that.
That's correct. It's the pass-through with cap specifically for the hen funds that are coming in the amendment.
In several meetings ago, or something like that, there were comments made from email or the public regarding that we are incompetent because we return funds back to the state when we don't spend them. And I think that's a positive testimonial to, in this case, our HHS and CAP, in that just because the money is there doesn't mean you throw it away
No.
or throw it out.
I agree with you, and that's another reason I think it's okay that we're the middleman on this, because as was stated, we have a little bit of control. We don't have a ton of control, but we have a little bit of say and how that's managed. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think both you and the speaker have swayed me enough to make the motion on 12. But it's always, you can't get there from here in one day. But if you continue putting pressure on making sure that it is properly spent, you will be doing everybody a good turn.
Somebody want to give me a motion on 13?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the contract amendment with Lower Columbia CAP for assisting program who are experiencing homelessness in obtaining and maintaining stable housing and essential needs, based on an increase award of $502,500 passed through from the Washington State Department of Commerce and the state legislature and the taxpayers of the state of Washington.
Yeah, I like that last part. Okay, we have a motion. Any questions, comments on that? Okay, before I call for the vote, I thank you for taking the time and putting up with the questions and answering. I think it's important that interaction to take place, so I appreciate that. Okay, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also vote aye.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Gina.
you.
Okay, last time we have under miscellaneous is Board of County Commissioners vote and appointment of Board of Health members. The Board of Health gave us 3 recommendations. Under other community stakeholders, Lorna Stewart. Under consumers of public health, Kelly Lane. Under public health, healthcare facilities or providers, Karen Joyner. So that was the recommendation from the Board of Health. I don't know if you want to hold discussion on that, or you want to put a motion on to open discussion, or what you want to do.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the recommendations as you just presented.
Okay. So we have a motion to accept the recommendations given to us by the Board of Health. Open it up to any discussion would like to have. Okay, we got a hand raised. Dave, if you want to unmute yourself and go ahead. I don't know, the hand went down, still raised by mistake. Okay. He didn't have a question. All right. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I was just,
Abstain?
Yes,
Okay.
no, opposed.
Okay. Motion passes.
I'm sorry for the delay. I had seen a comment and I was wondering if it would made any sense at all.
Before I open it up to public comments, tomorrow at 2:30 in our workshop, we have Southwest Washington Regional Airport. Excuse me. I know we've had change in management over there, so we'll get an update on that. I'm a big fan of our regional airport, so if anybody has similar interest, tomorrow at 2:30, they will be in and we'll have, you'll be able to have some discussion with them.
Yeah, the topic at that time is going to be the annual budget that the airport presents to the four principal entities, the Port of Longview, the county, the city of Kelso, and the city of Longview.
Okay. I should back up just a hair on our approval of the new Board of Health members. We'll swear them in at the next meeting, which is the 24th of this month. Okay, on 24th of this month, the Board of Health meeting, before we start that, we will swear in the new members and they'll take their seats. Okay, now we can move forward. Public comments.
Actually, I did want, in terms of upcoming events, you should have been receiving some email invitations from the Spirit Lake Tootle Cowlitz Collaborative on Thursday. You're invited to attend a workshop. We've been before. It's boots on the ground type of thing. So I just wanted to remind you of that if you haven't put it on your schedule yet. That's on Thursday, the 12th.
Okay. Rob, go ahead.
Every time I hear when you're approving expenditures, budget items and whatever, and you mention that cost also includes Washington state sales tax, that just really, really irks me. That's like we're being taxed doubly. I mean, we're being taxed to pay for those expenditures, and then we're being taxed again
Pay the sales
to
tax.
pay the sales tax. I work for the Census Bureau as a field representative, and they frequently send me out of town to do some work. And when they put me up in a motel or a hotel, they give me a letter, a tax exempt letter that I give to the hotel because I'm a federal employee, I'm exempt from paying any taxes at the hotel. I don't understand why, since you're a government agency, a county or a city, why can't they be tax exempt like the federal government is tax exempt when they have expenditures like that? What would need to be changed?
That's the wrong question. It should be, why are not the people tax exempt? I'm speaking for Tim Shea, of course.
Yeah.
So I've got just a little bit of experience with that, with my work with the State Counties Association. And we often ask for those kinds of exemptions. Paying sales tax on highway construction projects is duplicative, you know. I mean, the taxpayers are paying for the construction. And then the additional tax, which is recycled through the state and comes back sometimes in the form of grants. It is kind of crazy. The legislature requires it. That's the best answer. The legislature needs that money to pay for all the other things. Consolidated housing contracts and other types of programs. It's a fiscal decision made by the legislature every time that they pass the bill. They could exempt, you know, construction projects and things like you're talking about, but they choose not to.
Well, thank you.
Good morning. Dennis, clarification. I did not understand or hear your vote on the Board of Health.
Oh, I voted no. I'm
No.
sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So I will follow up on Larry's question regarding the Board of Health vote? Is that just challenging, or if I might inquire into Commissioner Weber's stance, is that by representing the public members that you are putting on the board, and you are giving a no, saying that you don't agree, is that give an indication that you don't agree with the process or the people, or you don't care?
Oh, I didn't agree with the folks that, I only voted for one of the three people. I didn't.
So on the same basis, we're going for a national election and other things. So the people that can't vote for one or the other because they can't make a decision or whatever, they say, I don't care, I don't vote at all. Just concerned about representing us. And are you representing us or yourself?
I'm representing the results of having interviewed all the candidates, and I don't think the best ones were selected.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? It's your time. Anything else from you, gentlemen?
That meeting you mentioned, Dennis, that's
Thursday.
this coming Thursday. And then there's the Mount St. Helens Institute meeting also. That's the 24th of this month.
That's the one, that's, yes, that's a meeting with legislators.
Yeah,
Their ultimate goal is to get funding for improvements so that they can host the outdoor school on site. Right now, they're limited because they don't have the,
right.
it's not designed for,
Right.
for overnight stays.
And that Tuesday is complicated for us, isn't it?
The 24th.
Yeah, because it's a Tuesday and it's in the afternoon, 2 to 4. Are we all planning to go? I expected I would go.
I'm planning on going to.
If it works out, yeah.
Okay.
I kind of like what they want to do up there, so I don't disagree with their idea.
Yeah.
My thing, I just want, whenever they get it done, it needs to be self-supporting and not supported by the folks.
Right. Yeah, that's part of that. If we use the term investment in partnerships rather sloppily here, and I've always marveled when they say we invest $1 for you and we might get back a dime later on. With that kind of investment, I can only go so far.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? I see nothing there. Oh, I do see a hand. Dave, did you have a comment now? Go ahead.
Yes, I hope I'm unmuted right now.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I would just say in regards to Commissioner Mortenson's comment on investments. I mean, when it comes to my public tax dollars and I find a ballot measure, say to invest in project A, I don't consider it an investment looking for a return in necessarily in dollars. I think the public, along with all these homeless programs and other such investments of our tax dollars, are for a public good. I mean, they don't necessarily garner a monetary return as a traditional investment or retirement investment. We're buying a non-monetary product necessarily, funding education programs, homeless programs. I mean, we recognize that there's an issue and we need to solve that issue. I mean, is there necessarily a return in it? No. So I would just say that in the public sphere, an investment is not necessarily made for the intent of a monetary return. So
yeah, I think that's a very valid question, and it actually plays into one of my concerns about almost everything. I've said that I'm more of a holistic individual. And implicit in a holistic approach is the time scale involved. If you invest $1 today and tomorrow you only get back 10 cents, that's okay. But if after 5 years or 10 years or 100 years, you pick the time scale, you don't get anything back for that $1 that you spent, then you probably didn't spend it judiciously. And in some cases, you actually grow the problem, and that's something was discussed earlier today when Commissioner Weber talked about the ramp down. You know, he's concerned about the negative signals we give, and the ramp down, it's an excellent idea. Any sensible individual isn't going to earn an extra $1 if they lose $100. And really, that's all I'm saying. And the crux always is, how do you do the measurement? There's the tangible and the intangible, and we're all pretty aware of that. It's much more difficult for me to spend a tax dollar on intangibles, because that can open up all kinds of doors of misuse. So I will tend to focus more on the tangibles when it comes to the public expenses. So I take a look at how, the number of people in poverty, the number of crimes committed, and you go on and on like that, and you just see, are we making progress or not? That's the metric. So anyhow, that was a good question you had, or was a good comment.
So one of the other challenges you have is that there are certain government programs, federal government programs, that are financed through deficit spending, which means we're actually putting in debt, not only our children, but our grandchildren, to pay off debts for things that we do today. I suppose that there is a type of a logic that would say, if those expenditures are investments in activities or projects that help improve national productivity, that is perhaps highway, port, airport improvements that help commerce work more effectively, so that we grow the economy and everyone is wealthier, and we can, pay off those future debts with dollars that are generated by these improvements. Then you've got a kind of investment. It's just almost always the case that in the year before presidential election, they spend a lot of money and they borrow it from future generations who don't vote. And the priorities are a little bit backwards, not a little bit, significantly backwards.
Anything else? Okay, we appreciate your attendance. We appreciate your participation. We will adjourn. Thank you.